Start there. Let's start. Oh, I have echo. I have my speakers on. One sec. Let's start there. So, welcome, everyone to Let's Chat, Let's Talk. Let's just see what's going on out in the world. Hope you're all doing well this evening. Just write in the chat if you can hear me, just because I looked down the side here to see if I could just test my headphones, and my son's stolen them. So they've gone. So just let me know if you can hear me, because it says so. But yes, thank you. As always, I don't know if I got anything particular on my mind tonight, but we'll go through it and see what's said. I'm sure the rosary will come up, Latin will come up. But you know what's interesting, apart from my son stealing my headphones, I told Eloisa she's not coming on tonight. She said, I'm not watching anyway. So Eloisa's my daughter. She was on last time. And I went on YouTube earlier to find the video, because I remember somebody asked about a particular passage, and I went on to find what that passage was, with all good intentions to research and to give an answer. And I realised when I go to play back the video, chat does not come up. It says it's disabled for this video. I have no idea why. So I'm going to look into that. I didn't have time tonight because we just had family around, and they've just gone. And so that's something to look into the future. But yeah, I was like, chat doesn't come up. So I couldn't find the video. But one thing I noticed, and hopefully you'll see tonight, last video, my face was really shiny. And I'm not that vain, but like my face was like just reflecting the light. So, and it does get hot in here in this in my office. It's probably the hottest room in the house, and this house is freezing. It's freezing, but they extended the house. So if I move back here, where I am now is where the old wall was, and they've not extended it much. It's probably about 1 meter, but they extended it 1 meter, put a porch on for an entrance to the office, but they put a new heater in, and because of that, and because of my computer, and it's this kind of bit of the house, this extra meter is really well insulated, and so it gets so hot in here. But because of the light, I've had to put up a blackout blind, and it gets really hot. And now, because it's dark, I can actually open the window. So the window's open. So hopefully, I won't have this. Like I said, I'm not that vain, but at some point you've got to cross the line to say your face is shiny. So I might be doing this. If I'm doing this, bear with me. So, yeah, good evening. Wow. Today I'm tired. I'm proper tired today. Big day. I stepped in to do the 8 o'clock service, and then to preach at 9:30 our communion service, and so I had to write a sermon yesterday, and it's on divorce. Jesus talked about divorce in Mark 10, and so that was a big sermon. When you're speaking biblical truth, but also understanding what the way the world is, and so yeah, that was good. And so then we went on to Messy Church this afternoon, which was great. We had kids around, had good fun, and we did harvest, because we're in that time of harvest. So that's where I am slightly. So chat is going as always. So we'll catch up on chat. So it's good now. I realise it's good to. When I read out the chat, because people who do watch this back can, if the chat's disabled, follow what I'm saying. So no beer tonight, just a Diet Coke, because I think if I had a beer I'll fall asleep. The other thing I noticed, by the way, and this is so YouTube. So when I do my videos, and when I do this video, you see my bookcase. It looks really tidy. That's because I have this chair. And when I went to second cam, and I'm like this, can you see? I'll get this on the camera now. Can you see here? Can you see all that mess? Look. You can't see the mess. Look. Second cam. Look at that mess. I hide it. I gotta go this way. Look at that. I hide it all from you. You found me out. I let myself. Anyway, that's the reality of YouTube, isn't it? That's the you make it look nice where people see. So there we go. Let's get into how's everything. How are you all? It's been a month. I said I might try to jump on in September. Best laid plans and all that. It was my son's birthday. He turned 17, which is both great, but also, it's difficult, isn't it, as your kids get older. So 17 now. He's 17. My sorry, my daughter's upstairs because I banned her coming on. Not banned. That sounds harsh. She's doing gymnastics in her room upstairs. So anyway, so Mr. B was on early. I saw this chat. Mr. B said, "See you later. God bless you." That was really early. Will Wood is hyped. It was good actually when you said hype because I thought that's what we need. So Bazalget, have you sung evensong? We actually do have an evensong in our church. Because we've got quite a few services, we say that you can do evensong, but if it's lay-led, and so the laity take that, so that's great. Otherwise, I would have quite a few services today. So here we go. Michael John straight away. I've been listening to RuPaul's Greatest Hits. A huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. Actually, I've seen RuPaul's Drag Race. It's really interesting. RuPaul's Drag Race from to listen to these people and see what they say. Or look, you can see my speak. I find it interesting with people who put their microphones in place. I always keep mine hidden. And you see all these people got their microphones like this. So RuPaul's Drag Race. Wow, are we allowed to watch RuPaul's Drag Race? I do find it, like I say, interesting for what people say on there. It really helps in pastoral situations. So now I move my microphone. I need to adjust it. So Mr. B, I was watching Catholic Unscripted. But saw you were on. Great. Wow, that's it. Get the good old Protestants on there. I haven't seen Catholic Unscripted. I've seen Anglican Unscripted with the two guys from the States. I watch that every so often. Kelly S says, "Don't be normal, be you." I'm actually surprisingly normal. Good. Thanks for. I suppose you watch my. I'm slouching in my chair, maybe. My daily devotional. Do sign up for my daily devotional. I've done 365 videos last year, and then a bit more this year because it's a leap year. 3 to 5 minutes daily devotional. And I say don't be normal, be you, because everyone tries to find this normality, and actually God's created us unique, and we shouldn't conform to a normality which society tells us to. We should find who we are and what God has called us for. And I think everyone is special. Everyone's unique. And that's why I say don't be normal. Be you. Because you are you. And nobody else is you. And you've got those gifts and skills and personality to do good work for God. And, that's why it's don't conform to normality, because you're actually really special. So chat is already going. Well done. You know what? Excuse me. I'm taking my shoes off. Oh, those shoes have been on for over 12 hours. Oh. So, as always, we'll chat. We'll see what's going on. Ask any questions that I can answer. If not, then I know now to take a photo and to answer it next time. The theological questions, some of them I can ask, and some of them I need to go off and research. I'm not that intelligent to do that. I figure now I'm more like the political thought and Christian and how it evolves around today. That's where my mind's at. I can do the theology, but I need to look at it and stuff. So where are we tonight? Should we go to second camera just for a change, and you can see my messy shelves. So Uncle John, Pope Francis is totally crazy as detailed on the Return of Tradition channel. You know, it's crazy. There's so many channels that are out there. I've never heard of Return to Tradition, but the Pope is saying a lot of things. But, you know, also the Pope is quite old now, isn't he, really? He's getting old. And he's speaking about things off the cuff. And I will speak about things off the cuff. I sometimes think people... I'll always say the wrong thing, especially on live. I remember speaking to my church warden, and he said he worries about when I do live just in case I say anything wrong. So, but, you know, let alone, there's some point, isn't there? And you can't do this as Pope. You really got to die. You're there, and you can just go off the ball and say some things which are not, especially when you're speaking different languages. Not saying that he is. I think the Pope is very liberal, and that is obvious. So I don't agree with him, but I think, you know, popes should popes retire. What do you think, Catholic friends out there? Should popes retire rather than stay there for a long time? Especially if you've got a bad pope, you're just literally waiting for them to die. At least like with the archbishops of Canterbury, the different archbishops, they have to retire at 70. At least, you know, you're just waiting for them to go if you've got a bad one. So in Dawson, how about Israel for start? Wow. Shall we go big? Yeah, I'll come on to that one later. Shall I come on to that one later? Remind me about that. Uncle John, be it as complimentary as ever. Thank you very much. Mr. B, out of Rome, hot news today is that Pope Francis has packed the conclave of cardinals with liberal cardinals. We are in God's hands and we must have faith. Oh, really? Is that for the next Pope coming in? Is that for the next Pope coming in? So it's going to be a liberal Pope next. Oh dear. Oh dear. So Robert Miller, given that your belief that the CAV is given up on Orthodox Christianity, have you considered joining the Ordinariat, which is the part of the Catholic Church that allows people, Anglicans, in? I'm not Catholic. I'm an evangelical, and so the Ordinariat isn't a way to go. Like in the Church of England, we have the Society. So I've got a really good friend, he's Anglo-Catholic, and he's joined the Society, and we don't have anything like that. He's got oversight from a bishop that he's happy with, but as evangelicals we don't have that, you know. And we can join things like the CEEC, which is the Church of England Evangelical Council, or New Wine or stuff like that, but there's nothing with oversight. The CEEC is offering spiritual oversight, but it's not the same as actually the Society, where you actually get a bishop as oversight. So I think what most people are doing is waiting to see what happens next year in February at the General Synod, and whether any of their red lines are crossed, as I spoke about before, with not only just standalone same-sex blessings, but also allowing same-sex clergy to be married in civil marriages, which is probably for a lot of people a bigger issue than standalone same-sex blessings, even though that's still a big issue. So yeah, no, I wouldn't join the Ordinariat. That wouldn't be right for me. Mr. B, yes, the gospel today at Mass was a strong one. Jesus laying down the law. Yeah, Jesus, you know, that sermon today was really strong about divorce. And we just don't preach. I just imagine around church, you know, because we follow the lectionary, and many churches will follow the lectionary, how many people are just not preaching that message because they might just find it uncomfortable. They might not believe it. It's like, but it was a difficult one. But you have to be true to the word, because that ultimately is loving. And that's the thing. It's more loving to preach the truth than to preach a lie, which in the long run is not loving, because it doesn't help people and can put more people in a difficult situation. So let's catch up. Cannon Poole Hamilton, MA, wow. One of my churches decided today to divert our parish share to the Alliance. You considered it? I don't think where we are as a church is ready for that yet. And so I think let's go to this camera, where we are, like for many churches, is a small parish church. And so I think it is the way to go. And there are people in my church who would support that. But I don't think overall we're not there yet. But again, it would come to General Synod next year, where people would take this more seriously, because, I have to manage my online ministry with my church ministry, and obviously my church ministry comes first. But everybody in my church is aware that I've got an online ministry, and most people are very supportive of it. And so it does make it a bit harder in that way for me, if I would suggest things that it wouldn't come across, just because my online ministry, if you know what I mean. So we're on a journey as a church, and people know where we stand. We do get a lot of people going to church, and some people, a guy turned up today. It was really nice. So a guy came today, a retired vicar, and he came to the service, and because he's seen me online and he's got family locally, and he said, you know what, I'm going to go see Rev Dan and I'm going to meet him in the flesh, which is really wonderful. And it's great. If you're ever near Chalfont St Giles, pop down and say hello and come to the service and see what we're about. And it was lovely today because the church had a really good number in, and but and that might be my tension, that might be in my head with this whole how I deal with church. But I have got a flock which I'm trying to pastor and do that right. But should one day the church ring cross that red line, maybe we would. But it's good that other churches are going to the Ephesian Fund, and for those who don't know what the Ephesian Fund is, so we got what we call a parish share. Some people call it quota, or common fund, and you pay that to the diocese, and it pays for our stipend, and it pays for other things as well. What the Ephesians Fund is, it goes to this fund, and this fund pays it to the diocese, but it puts like a thing on saying this money can only be used for Orthodox churches. So that money, once it goes to the diocese, can't be used in liberal churches. So the diocese still get the money, and it's not actually a huge thing. Some dioceses, I've heard, they're happy, fine. We got a bunch of different churches, and we just know this money goes to Orthodox churches, and the rest we can use for liberal churches. And some dioceses hate it. They really hate it. They really hate it. So, but it is down to the local church. So that would be one thing going forward. But I think, like as I said, there's some people in my church who would want to do that anyway. So, but yeah, like I said, it's good that one of your churches has done that. So I'm just going to catch up on the chat. Many drag queens have a strong religious faith, and they talk about their faith on the show. They do. I've seen that. It's quite interesting how some of them speak, and especially what they've been through. It is quite interesting. Trying to understand people who are living that life and how they got there and what they went through. Anyway, Willward, Rev Dan, I know you prefer Alpha over Christianity Explored, but I think Christianity Explored is much clever on sin, and Alpha is too close to selling Christianity as an emotional experience. What do I think? It's not that I prefer Alpha over Christianity Explored. I've never run Christianity Explored. But actually, I don't run Alpha the way that Alpha say. Let people speak, because I'm a realist and people want to speak, if you're a guy with a collar, I let them ask questions, and I'm very open about all these things. So where a video might not talk about that, we definitely talk about that. And I don't like running alpha in big groups. They get some alphas and they got like 100 people or 50 people. I like running alpha with a maximum starting 15. You'll always lose some. You might lose 5, you might lose 3. And having a group of like 10 to 12 that really bonds over those weeks, and the discussion opens up and the trust is huge. And so for me, alpha's a vehicle. And actually, if I put alpha in 3, and I've done a video on this, if I put alpha in 3, there's 3 different stages for alpha. You've got the video, you've got the discussion, you've got the meal. And I would say, what's the most important? The meal is probably, I believe, the most important, followed by the discussion, followed by the video. I think the video is the vehicle, but the meal is where people come, and every time I run alpha, I see people build fellowship and trust and start asking, oh, how was work? And they start getting to know each other. And so as that time over the meal happens, people then go and watch the video, their thoughts are going. And over the weeks, the discussion opens up. And I'll be very truthful, because it's you've only got a few weeks, a certain amount of weeks to speak about these things, and let the discussion go on from there. I don't speak all the time, but I'll answer the questions, but I'll always throw it back in that kind of alpha thing of, now what do you guys think about this? But so I used alpha. I never used Christianity Explored, but I would always see them as a vehicle. One day I'll do Christianity Explored. I might think it's absolutely brilliant and better than alpha, but we took the alpha format for many other discipleship courses that I've done. So no matter what video it was, like Life on the Front Line, we did one with something with Joe Boot. He was in a taxi. We did For the Life of the World, all these different ones, and we did the same format of meal, video, discussion, and I think that works. Hello from Dallas. Hello Vincent. Hello from Dallas. Wow. I was watching, me and my son are getting big into American football. My son plays American football, and so we were watching Red Zone before. I'm sacrificing Red Zone here. Are you a Dallas Cowboys fan? You must be from Dallas. You have to be from Dallas. Kelly says, I think it's much nicer to see a bookshelf like yours. It looks like you use it. All those Pinterest perfect bookshelves, do people even read? Or do those people even read? Yeah, well, how many of those books have I read? I read some. You kind of skim through the books, but I'm not perfect. I'm not one of those people that you should see my desk. It's tidy sometimes. Wow. I see how far I'm back on the conversation here. Mr. B, no. I like it when you chat. I jump in on your chat. Willow, your fan of Mr. Gimble. I'll catch up on that one. Camper Mobile Dan, how as Anglicans are we to approach the concept of Sabbath? I think the principle, well, God said, you take a Sabbath, and I think as we should take it is a day of rest, absolutely right, but a day also put for God. Now, a lot of people put it on Sunday. As a vicar, I can't put it on Sunday. I work Sunday. My day of Sabbath is tomorrow. And I'm very naughty. I do a lot of YouTube work on a Monday on my day off. So it's like I never have a proper Sabbath. And I'm aware of that. How much time do I give at God? How much time do I give for rest? But I think rest is absolutely important. So Sabbath is important, and giving that day over to God. But you also, so for example, tomorrow we own a house and we rent it out, and I need to go up there to fix some things. And so I can't, that's my only day I can get out of the parish. And so, I would be sacrificing my Sabbath for that. So when am I going to find my rest? So and this is not as Anglican, this is as me. I think you need a day of rest. You need a day to spend with God, to read. But I also build into my week, like on a Friday morning, a study day where I try to read some of these books, or not read the books, but read some things that are on my mind, to try and understand some things, sit down, watch some videos, and, you know, to have that time to help me renew my mind, as Paul says in Romans. And so if we don't have a Sabbath rest, whatever day it may be, and it does, for me, it doesn't matter which day it is, and giving that time to God, then I think that's spiritually going to not be good in the long run, if you know what I mean. We need to give that time to God, but life also goes on as well. So when you work 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, and only have the weekend, and the weekend's busy and doing stuff, when can you have that? I think modern day now, life is so hard, but absolutely Sabbath is, and the concept of Sabbath is important. So the rest is important, and spending that with God is important. And that's what I would probably say today, as Anglican. I don't feel that's a strong answer. When I'm saying I don't feel that strong. Maybe I'll think about it a bit more. TP, smash the proverbial like button. Absolutely, smash that like button. Mr. B, difficult question about Pope's retirement as norm. Yeah. I'm going to catch up with you guys. Kelly, yes. I think if he develops some sort of medical issue, then retirement should be considered if he wants. Otherwise, the job is his. Oh, for the Pope, yeah. Michael John, Ireland is far crazier than the UK now. Even planning trips home to Ireland from the UK is even more unpredictable ever since October 2022. What happened in October 2022? And it's going to take me a few minutes to catch up with that. What happened in October 2022? I see, like, some of the videos come out of Ireland. It's crazy at the moment. Well, word. My local COV church is CEEC. It's doing so much good work in outreach. Also had the Bishop of Ebbsfleet as oversight, as it has complementarian convictions. See that, and so if you've got complementarian convictions, you can have the Bishop of Ebbsfleet. So, oh, Reverend Brett is on here. Hello. I haven't spoken to Brett for a long time. Good evening, Dan. Just popping in before I go to evening prayer with the GAFCON lads to say God bless you, bro, and keep up the good work for the kingdom, praying for your Lord's protection over you. Thank you, Brett. I haven't spoken to Brett for a while. I saw one video about he's putting all the juicy gossip out, and of what's going to happen. I've been very, very good, Brett, not texting you and asking you what's going on, but it's coming out in videos now, so I'm sitting down and catching it when I can. So quite interesting. But thank you, and I suppose he's praying right now, and I pray for their prayers as well. Michael John, I support the Irish Society for Christian Civilization and the TFP in the USA, or pro-life traditional Catholic groups. Absolutely great. So here we go. TP, if Rev Dan is so evangelical, why is he wearing a Roman collar and not even Genevan togs? I'm so evangelical that I have no idea what Genevan togs are. The reason why I wear a collar, because it's part of the uniform. In my way, I wouldn't wear a collar most of the time. I'm that evangelical. But you know why I wear a collar? It's because the day after my mum died, I was still an atheist. Let's go back. I went to an evangelical church, which I stayed at after. And the person taking the service and preaching, I thought was the vicar. And he was just not in a collar, and I was just really not saying nice things to him in my head. And then after the service, my wife introduced me to the vicar. And I was like, I've been hating the wrong person. I should have hated that person. Like, who's this person who's taken the service? Man, I should have hated this person, because I was very angry. Obviously, I was an atheist, and my mum just died the day before. And so I saw the importance of collars. And so if I'm online as Rev Dan, people associate that with collars. So a lot of the time I don't wear my collar, actually. But yeah, I wouldn't even know what Genevan togs are. This is a Roman collar. This is not a Roman collar anyway. That is one of those that, isn't it the one that goes all the way around? My Catholic friends wear. This is just, I'm using the camera to see if I can put my collar back in. So here we go. Michael B. Ireland is in freefall into dystopia, and most Irish people are in denial as to really going on. They're choosing to remain asleep. So is the UK, what is going on. So is a lot of countries in the States is really bad as well. We're second class citizens in the ministry department. Sorry, Michael John as well. Ads cutting in. I did leave ads on really conservative. Well, it does. It just helps. And I know it's annoying and I'm really sorry. But it just helps pay some of the bills. So I do apologise. Bear with. I do feel bad about putting the ads on. But none of this is free. You know, if you think I got all these lights shining and stuff like that tonight, that costs. So anyway, do bear with. 5 seconds. I'm just going to do a boring part of the video as I flick through. Just bear with me. Talk about churches. There are a few churches, Mr. B was saying, parish churches sharing facilities. There are some churches that I know who have shared their church, like on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday with, like, say, Eastern Orthodox churches or something like that, Romanian churches, and rented them out, the space out to them because they're looking for a place. And it does work, but only under certain conditions that it can work and agreements in place. But I think, like, you know, you think the churches are open for... No, yeah, some churches are only open for a couple of hours a week. The smaller churches with not that many people, they've got nothing going on in the week, and they're just closed all the rest of the time. And surely it's better to have people in there. And if you think back to the medieval times, churches were a real hub, and used to have markets in them and stuff like that. And you know, because it was the largest building around, and so it was good for when it was winter and things like that. So things went indoors, and now we treat it as a museum, but actually it was real the centre life of a parish. And you know, and if you suggest that now, a lot of people will just go, you can't do that. But I think actually you can, and get people in church. I think it's good. And nowadays a lot of churches need money. So let's catch up. Yeah. I can never get your name. Frangipani. And the trouble is, we're doing online like this. I'm the only one who can speak, and you might be going there going, no, it's Frangipani. Or I hope I get it right. Frangipani. Local Anglican Church is another denomination, usually in church hall, but not the church itself, as I think that would not need a proof on the diocese or wider authority. Yeah. So that's the way people get around it, but it is a shame. But there are, it depends on the orthodoxy or the beliefs of those other churches that would do that. Guy Benton, Kia ora from New Zealand. Wow, so we've got all the way from United States to New Zealand here to Ireland and Manchester, Chalfont and Giles. This is great. Let's see where you're all from. Let's see how many countries or places have we got. You can put that in the chat as well, and then that gets me catch up. Sabbath was made for man, but so many different pastors being different views, it's confusing to get guidance. Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Camper Mobile. It's, and that's why I don't feel my answer was a strong answer. what is Sabbath now? What's Sabbath in today's world? I think rest is important. Spending time is important. So, Cheshire Cats, hello, always like listening to you. Thank you very much. Vincent Button, lukewarm Cowboys fan, but still a Cowboys fan. I am, for my sins, and I didn't know this, and I'm so sorry about this, a Kansas Chiefs fan. And the reason why I am is because I supported them like 30 years ago. And then when my son got into American football, I said, well, I supported the Chiefs like 30 years ago because American football used to be on Channel 4. And I'll support them. And then he told me that they were winning the Super Bowl all the time, and it just feels like I'm just supporting the team that's winning. But I have now supported it over 30 years. I've been invited, Vincent, to Dallas by a pastor out there, and he's invited me to a game because the Cowboys were massive like 30 years ago. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I might try to do that next year. Canon Paul. My church were really sold on the Ephesians fund because the money goes to local ministry, not advisors, carbon neutral funds, slavery repatriations, etc. It was a harvest stewardship message today. Oh, you had harvest. Okay, we had a harvest a couple of weeks ago. And harvest stewardship, combining those, nice. Yes, you're right about where the money goes to, and that's a good thing with the Ephesians Fund. Where does the money go to? And I think that's where we will go in the future. I do. Well, Rev Dan, what's the appeal of Mormonism? When you dig into it, the history and the rituals and the cult mentality is really weird. I said this before. I cannot believe it's. I really do think it's hard enough in one way or another, because it took me a while to become a Christian, to believe in Christianity. And then the Mormon stuff on top, it's just like weird. And people really buy into it. And it's really like, what's going on? It's like, how can you believe this? It's hard enough to believe in Christianity, let alone all this stuff. I have no idea. I think it is because of cultish type behavior. And the promise for the self, like you're going to be your own God, you're going to get your own planet, and it's like, oh, that's what we want. You're speaking to my ego and my narcissism. I'm going to love that, and I think that's what it sells itself on. False religion, man, false religion. It's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah, avoid Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses and all that. Michael John, in Dublin, calling someone massive or a ride is saying that they are handsome. Wow. That would just totally go in my head. Mr. B, yes, many bands agree levies are making heating too expensive. We can't afford to heat our house. We can't afford to heat our house. And that's the truth. We can't afford to heat our house. James, hi, Rev Dan. I've been doing much reading on church history and the KJV. That's good. Always read. I'm taking it that you're going to say something on. Come on, Rev Dan. Tell us, as the CAV, how can we help our communities and reach an end to current differences we have? Differences on what I'm reading down. Differences in the church. Is that different in the church or in the community? If it's in the community, I think that the church just needs to stand on its orthodoxy and show God's good plan and how we've gone off that, and the hope that brings. I have so many good conversations with people about this, and people always admit that the world's gone crazy and they're attracted by Christianity because it offers hope. So that, if that's part of what you're looking for, there you go. If not, if it's about the church being reconciled to itself, I don't think it will. I think we're so divided. Michael John, in October 2022, during the UK train strike, I was stranded for 2 days in Holyhead, unable to get back to Manchester. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Holyhead. Holyhead. I'm trying to remember where Holyhead is. 2 days on a bench, or did you stay somewhere? That's crazy. Traditional Catholic priests wear full-length cassock. Yes, they do, and the buttons on the front. Vincent Button. Rev Dan, are mainline churches all just going universalist? They're not going universalist. They're going woke, would be the headline word. They're getting in. They're just moving away from the gospel, and they're getting into social issues, which are nothing really much to do with preaching the gospel and standing on the gospel. So I wouldn't say they're going universalist. Some are. They don't like to say God is the only way to heaven, as Jesus says. You can only get to the Father through me. And there will be some priests out there will say, or some churches, should I say, that say, yeah, everyone gets to heaven. It's like a sliding scale. So some will be kind of really universalist, and will say, no, Jesus is the only way. But they really support some woke ideologies out there, and that would be their main focus rather than preaching the gospel. And it's like, are you preaching the gospel? Are you getting out there doing mission? And so it's like it's difficult to say, because it's a sliding scale across different people in different churches, and even on the Orthodox side as well. It's not, you can't put it in a box. Different churches will slightly believe different things. So, but they're not all. I don't think all mainline churches are going universalist. I think they're just where mainline churches or denominations, should we say denominations, are going wrong is they're allowing same-sex to come in to all that, and that's where they're falling. The church in Canada, the church in Scotland, is it TEC in America, the Church of England, the Methodist Church in England, the Baptist Union in England, some of them are going down. All of those who are adopting same-sex marriage or blessings are failing, because that's not what people want. So, and with that, yes, it's not just the belief of it's not just the belief of same-sex, because with that belief comes other things, as Canon Paul said, carbon neutrality, slavery repatriations, and all those things as well. It comes with that. So, but they are on decline. They're all on decline. But there's some of us who are staying in, who are trying to be orthodox on all this as well. So, Tim Rogers, I would like to see all clergy wear something identifiable in public. We need it. It gives us someone to go to if needed. Also, people need to realise that you are out there. Yeah, and I'm going to move to this government now, and that's why I wear it. I call it a target. Is that bad to call it a target? But yeah, it's a uniform, isn't it? And I come to the thing that if I'm not wearing this, and I do it when I go to assemblies, I say to the kids, if I'm like this, look now. If you come onto my live stream and I didn't have Rev Dan up there so you couldn't see all my collar, if I didn't have that there, you'd be like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? So, if I was a doctor or a policeman, I'd be wearing a uniform. So, yeah, so I do wear this. So, someone can screenshot that and say, oh, he's not a proper vicar. I was doing an assembly once, and I said that. I took it out, and this kid went, fake! Because he thought that this was fully attached or something. That when I took it off, he's like, you're not proper, you're fake. It's funny. Out the mouth of babes. I think I might caught up enough to go onto this screen. Collars are cool in a good way. Yeah, I tell you what, camper mobile, they're not cool in the summer when it's really, really hot and you've got this plastic stuck around your neck. It's horrible. And you can't wear, you want to wear your light blue shirt. I got a light blue shirt. But then, like, if you've got plastic around your neck, it just gets all sweaty and it's obviously sweat. And people are a bit like, so you have to wear a black shirt to hide the sweat. And then obviously black attracts the heat and the heat stays in. It's just, so they are cool. And it's good, but sometimes depends on the weather. Well, Word, do you think about churches together? What do you think about churches together movement? Depending on those who are part of it, it can just become lowest common denominator and unity at all costs, rather than gospel unity. Yes, and we're finding that. I'm in an area where I moved into a churches together, ministers together kind of movement. But actually, as same-sex blessings came into all of our denominations, we did find it, and the person leading it did find it harder with integrity to say, we can't keep meeting up. And we just don't agree. And I think where churches or denominations before it was worked together well because it wasn't an issue, now this is really showing up an issue. And to be honest, as far as I can see, this group hasn't met for quite a while. And I think there is that difficulty there. And as each denomination goes down further, you've got to have integrity as a minister. How can I minister alongside someone else who... It's not that we don't like each other. And this is so important. We get on really, 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 really well and like each other. We just fundamentally disagree with each other. But we can't... What does it show to your local areas when you will be standing together doing something, but you fundamentally disagree on this? It's confusing for them, and we can't confuse people. So we have to stand apart for the integrity of the gospel, because that comes first. And so the churches together thing is now a lot harder because of things like LLF, and this is or same-sex blessings, same-sex marriage, because this is what is what's been brought up, and because it's not just happening in one denomination, it's happening a lot. It really is splitting those things. So I'm going to come to a question. Vincent, come in summer to experience the heat. I'm not going to get tricked to that. My mum went over there with my brother many years ago in the 1990s and said there's no one at the top. They couldn't work out why in Dallas there was no one out at the top, and they realised that underneath the ground there's a whole other city. I think that's right, that there was a whole other city because it's a lot cooler, that the summer's really, really hot in Dallas. We don't have it that hot in the UK. Mr. B, harvest was last week, wasn't it? Harvest is different times for different people. Depends when the harvest moon is, isn't it? Or what do they call it? I think they call it harvest moon, but there's a different moon. And so people will have it around that time. But it's from the end of September to the beginning of October. And if churches have really got a set date, they'll just stick it on that date. I think we do that. Ours is around the 22nd, 23rd, 24th type dates in September. So... friend, I've done it again. Frangipani says harvest is a movable feast, and it is. Harvest is movable, but I think most churches will just go a particular weekend. Mr. B, Holyhead is in Anglesey, Wales, opposite Dublin, across the sea. Yes, that's where it is. Yeah. I get that now. 2 days there. James, thanks for Dan. That was a double answer for me. I've something to think about. Great. I'm glad I can answer a question. Michael John, a rather gorgeous vicar. Who's that then? Mr. B, if you were a policeman in 2024, you'd be wearing a rainbow. Should get a rain. There are, and how many times am I going to take this out tonight? I've seen priests with rainbow collars. I mean, this is such a symbol of holiness and purity, you know, any a bit that we try to be in that way. And it's to have it as a rainbow, I think it's just, I just don't get what people are. I don't know the theology behind this. It's a dog collar. It's a uniform. TP, so I didn't phone call miss anything. I don't know. You could have had a phone call 10 minutes ago. I'm just catching up. Michael John, when I was a teenager, I used to have a major crushes on handsome young curates in my local parish in Ireland, just before I came out as gay. Well, yeah. So there you go. Then you kind of knew where you were, I suppose. Willward, my local Churches Together Facebook page hasn't used the word Jesus or God in years. It's all about peacemaking rather than teaching the gospel. Yeah, that's what I found today. Like when we was preaching about divorce, Jesus was pretty unequivocal on, you know, marriage is for life, and you know, don't get divorced, and what God has put together, do not get people to take. No one can take apart, because He's joined two people together. And, you know, it's pretty clear. And I know divorce happens, and, you know, I address that, and it is part of our fallen state and stuff. But what we have to understand is what is God's ideal, not where we're at. You know, so Moses permitted divorce. But it's not like because Moses permitted divorce, it can happen. Actually, we want to go back to what's God's ideal. And all of those things. It was interesting, was speaking to the teenagers at our youth club on Saturday about some of these issues. And we speak about these issues, but I hope to keep bringing them. What's God's ideal? What does He command us to do that we're forgetting about? Like, don't have sex outside of marriage, because when you do, all sorts of things can happen. You know, when you get married, believe that God has joined you together, and it's lifelong, and it's beyond. It's outside of you as well. Your marriage benefits the community. It's bigger than you, and you know. And we seem to forget these things, and we start to go down this end, and we're arguing from this end and saying, well, this is the way we see it now, and there are these. No, it's like we have to come back here, and now people find that offensive, and it's like it's not what I'm telling you. This is what God is saying. Don't get offended at me for saying this. This is God's ideal. This is what He's calling us to do. Now, will it happen? Not all the time, but that's what we strive for. We strive to be pleasing to God, to be obedient, you know, and trust in what He's asking us to do is right. Not live down here where we've come up with solutions or arguments not to be where God wants us to be in. And it's okay for these things, other things to happen, you know. So like a divorce in Christian marriages here. I'm not talking about non-Christian marriages, but in Christian marriages, marriage by God through the Holy Spirit, joining two people together. Abortion and all these things. We're living in this world and saying, well, you know, this is where we are. And it's like, no, we've got to go here. And that's part of being truthful. And I really just don't think, as I was going for the sermon, you know, I think back, you know, you don't hear churches preaching as strong, and it's a strong message, like I said before, but you've got to be caring, and that is caring and loving, not preaching a weak message, because you want people to strive. And I know it's difficult, because even I find it difficult. Of course, we're all human, but I know for the greater good. But you read what Jesus says, he knows it's for the greater good for people and society. And so we got to just get back to that now. But again, as I said a lot, I think this is what God's doing. I think through all this, he's sifting or shaking the tree and seeing what stays or what's happening. Mr. VTP, you missed the big revelation. Oh, well. Oh, dear. Well done. The big revelation. We'll come out of that church if it's saying peace, but no. Mr. B, well, come out of that church if it's saying peace, but no Jesus. I think he's saying the local churches together. Yeah. I think the local churches together have to find churches who are orthodox on this and have a very good conversations, saying how do we work together, how do we support each other across our denominational differences as well, and how do we lovingly say to the other churches, we just can't be in fellowship with you anymore. We just can't. And it's sad, like I said, because there are friendships there and friendships over years, but we can't confuse people over the gospel. We just can't, not anymore. We have to come out from that. Michael John. It's ironic that as an older gay man, despite supporting change in my teens in the 80s for LGBT rights, seeing the deception over years, I no longer support the changes that are being made now. Well, it's I think with all these things, I think it's absolutely right for people to have rights. And again, when I say this, you've got to think, we live in a Christian world. We live in God's kingdom. We don't live of the world. But we know that the world is broken and will do its own thing. And we have to separate those. And what we're trying to do is call people from that world into God's kingdom and to change their life and repent and stuff. But when we do look at the world, it always starts off as good. People, any people, ethnicity, sexuality, and all those things should have rights in this world. But if you take the new assisted dying that they're trying to get through the British Parliament, we know after looking at Holland and in Canada, it starts off, but we just want to help people who are really, really ill and so they don't suffer in pain. And then it slipped down to, in Holland and Canada, well, if someone's depressed, they're allowing them to commit suicide. It's always, people always take advantage, as it were, because this world is broken. This, where we live, the kingdom of God's world God wants us to live to a high standard, and he calls us to that, and we're obedient on that. And we know that when we're obedient, we live good and holy lives, which always surprises us, because we think, well, there's a lot of rules there, God. I don't think I can live to that standard, God. And then you start to strive, and then you go, wow, this is pretty amazing. I love this life. But in the world, people just take advantage and go, right, we've got that. Let's go the next. And so I can see what you mean. Michael John, the whole abortion and trans thing is crazy. The whole world is crazy. Mr. B to TP, the rainbow is fake, as either indigo or violet is missing. I saw a really interesting video about the indigo violet, whichever one it was. Actually, it's not a colour, it's made up of two colours. I'd have to look at it. It was quite interesting. Anyway, because I can't think of it. Baz, hi Rev Dan, my vicar doesn't think homosexuality is a sin. When I emailed him about it, he didn't reply back and keeps making excuses. I think I need to find an Orthodox CV, but no idea how. Baz, this is, I get emails about this and asking questions about this. I think, now we as churches, as we move forward, especially the General Synod in the Church of England next year, and really allowing all this stuff to happen, that vicars really need to say where they stand and be open and honest. And yes, will they take flack? Yes. And let's admit, on both sides. So if you're Orthodox, you will take flack. If you're a liberal, you will take flack. But I think people need to say, this is where we are, because I think it's awful. I think it's awful that people who are searching for God, and there's a whole a whole slew of young people who are, and I've said this before, who are walking into churches seeking for truth, but they just think a church is a church, and unless it's got a rainbow flag outside, which is a good reason not to go into one of those churches, they can walk into a church thinking, well, all churches are the same. And I think people are finding it difficult now, going, I don't believe my church is Orthodox, or like Baz is saying, he said homosexuality, he doesn't think homosexuality is a sin, and I'm thinking now that he's saying especially homosexual practice, and people can do that. He's not replying to the emails. Some people as well, and just be fair, they do actually think it's wrong, but they don't want to put their head above the parapet. They don't want to be outed. They don't want to be known. They don't want to take the flag. But we have to. We have to. If we're... Again, I had a conversation with two people this afternoon, just before our messy church service, who came into church, about our church, we stand on orthodoxy and how it's growing because of that. And they were agreeing that that's really good. And I was saying, young people are coming because they're asking questions because they want to know the answers. And if you want to know an answer to a question, well, you're going to find someone who will answer that question straight. And they don't want a half-baked answer. They don't want a kind of dressed up answer in cotton wool. They just want to be told the truth, so they can go off and think about what you said, because they want to make a judgment call whether Christianity is true or not. Now, if we're not giving the full answer or putting it in lovely cotton wool and giving it to people, these younger people are going to see through that. And so we're not going to help them, and we're not going to help ourselves either. And so I think now is the time, and I also, again, believe that God's calling us out as churches to stand up on orthodoxy and say this is where we stand. And so there could be Baz, your vicar, could think homosexuality is a sin, or might just not want to admit where he's standing. But either way, I think now is just as bad. Either it's just as bad. You can't hide anymore. Stand up. We're called to stand up for the orthodoxy. We're called to preach the gospel. So what gospel are you preaching? Then it comes back to your second question or statement. Well, the first question, the second part of your statement is, I think I need to find an orthodox COE, but I had no idea how. And this is the difficulty. This is the difficulty. How can you leave your church and then go to a church and go, what do you believe? And I think it's perhaps it's now just for you guys to have push people, local vicars, and say, I want to come to your church, but I need to know where you stand. Please tell me honestly, and see what they say. It's not being horrible. You're basically inviting to a vicar to go, do you believe in the Bible? Do you believe that marriage is between a man and a woman? Do you believe in this and do you believe in that? We should be able to answer those questions now. And I think it'd be really quite telling if vicars can't say that in an email, because then you've got to question, what are they preaching? What are you preaching on Sunday? Are you holding back on the gospel because you don't want to feel uncomfortable or hurt my feelings? Wow, we have to go before God. We have to answer before God on all these things. Do you think God's going to be pleased in the way that we're acting if we're not being honourable to our calling that He's called us to do? There's no way out of this. If we're called to this role, then we take it all. Come on, there's people around the world who are... Look what I did it on Friday in my Rev Dan's Roundup. The CCP in China are going to churches and saying, you can't preach from the Bible. You have to preach this propaganda message. You've got to take down your pictures of Jesus or these crosses, or if it's a Catholic church, Mary, and put up the leader's picture in church as well. And they're leaving the church. They're saying, we're not doing that, and going to underground churches, knowing that they will be found out, knowing that they will be put in prison, but saying this is more important than that. And we're here going, I'm not going to tell you where I stand on homosexuality, or I don't think it's a sin, or hiding behind it. We haven't got that choice anymore. How can we let our brothers and sisters in Christ around the world either be persecuted or lose their lives for the gospel, and then we can't even say where we are on a particular issue? And we're supposed to be running churches? It does. It winds me up. Sorry, but I'm thinking about this more and more now. We're getting closer to February, and we can't put our heads down anymore. We can't put our heads down. And what will come will come. You know, is it nice? I've been through it. No, it's not nice. But you get through it because God is on the throne. God will not be mocked. You know, it's not, people don't come after you. We are only servants of God sent to a certain area to serve him. When people come against us, and people got to realize this, they're going against God. What they're saying is, I don't want you here. I don't agree with you. I want to get you out. And God's going, I put that person there. You're not going against them. You're going against me. So they're not fighting us. They're fighting God and his angel armies. That's what they're doing. And God will not be mocked. God is on the throne. And so things have to change. Things have to change. More on that in the next few months. Getting passionate now. Getting passionate. And still, it is just Coke. It is just Diet Coke. Nothing in there. Where were we? James, great analogy of shaking the tree. It is. It is. God is shaking the tree. He needs to get rid of. We need to sieve, shake the tree, get rid of, and what's left on the tree would just bear fruit in that sense. Mr. B, we all have crosses to bear, and lust is one of them. Camper Mobile, the craftiness of the devil, give him an inch. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, that's the world. That's the world. We shouldn't be shocked at the world. No, we should be, if you know what I mean. It gets crazier and crazier and crazier. But that's the world is. What I mean is we shouldn't be shocked because that's the way the world is going. And we are living in God's kingdom. I think as Christians, what we get caught up in is we believe that we still live in the world. We still believe that we're there. And actually we've given our lives over to Christ and said, well, that's where we're now in God's kingdom. And we should see everything from that perspective. And in one way, as we see it from God's kingdom, we look at the world and it breaks our heart. It breaks our heart. It's something that we've gone away from. And so we look in a different perspective and we see what's going on and just going, this is crazy. It's crazy. The devil is just having so much fun. And sometimes it doesn't feel like the devil needs to do too much anymore because they're doing it themselves. You know, cutting children's breasts off because they're confused about their gender or sexuality and making it normal, giving young, and mainly young girls as well as young boys, puberty blockers, which I'm so glad the Cass report came out in the UK and stopped that, but it still happened in the States, is and trying to normalise this. You know, and once that starts happening, it starts to become normal, then, like you say, give the devil an inch and it'll take a mile. It will always get worse. I couldn't imagine if it's this bad now and how much it's changed in my life, what it'd be going like in the future. Okay. Michael John, abortions up to birth and even beyond birth are now perfectly legal under current Irish laws. You know, it's just horrible. It's just horrible. Sorry, I'm just catching up with the chat while I'm taking that. Well, word, my LCV church was mostly about feelings and what does the Bible say, but how much does it make me feel? Yeah, we got a very cosy Christianity, haven't we? A very cosy. We went from a cultural Christianity, a lot of people being in churches culturally because that's what people did. You know, it was the culture to go in. They didn't believe it, you know, you go with the culture, to a cosy Christianity. We go to church because it makes me feel good. You know, and I'm all for helping people, and I quite love it actually, helping people find their callings and what God has called them to do and who they are and the gifts that God's given them. I think that's really exciting. But in that, and I'm putting on focus just in case I've been out of focus most of the video. But in that, what if your calling is to go serve as a chaplain in a really difficult place in the world where you might get killed, and those are callings, but those are callings that we're called to, and everyone thinks, no, when I become a Christian and I want this Christianity, I want this and I want that. No, it's not what you want. It's not what you want. Sometimes being a vicar is quite a hard job. It is quite a hard job, and sometimes you go, wow, I just love a little break, God, and God's like, no, because you're the one. You're the one. And that's in every ministry, by the way, not just being a vicar. So I'm only speaking about that because that's my context. But God knows you're the one to do this. You're the one who's got that personality, and you're the one that's got that tenacity to do this. And you kind of go, yeah, okay, God, I'll honour you and I'll be obedient. I always sing that kind of hymn, Trust and Obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way. That's all I need to sing. There's no other way, because God is the way. There's no other way. And so I'll just trust in God and obey. And He's got a plan. And I'm just part of that plan. Tiny part of that plan. And I might not see the fruit of the works, as it were, because the plan is far beyond my knowledge. That something I might do now might be, actually, I think, oh, that was good. But it bears fruit in 200 years' time. And you're just to be in obedience. So, there we go. James, Baz, dare I say that's how the Rainbow Churches spin it? Or I'm going off on little, so I'm losing where I am. Because Baz was saying about going to another church. That was it. Baz, I'm thinking I'm going to have to email around a bunch of churches to see if they are Bible-believing church. Baz. I'm going to put my email address. If I can spell it. Baz, there's my email address for this ministry. Email me where you live, and then I'll go onto my evangelical group online on Facebook and ask them. And so many people do this now. They go onto that group, and it's loads of ministers and evangelicals, and we say, is there a good church? So if you are Anglo-Catholic or if you're evangelical, just let me know, because they know the Orthodox churches. So if I say if you're in Sheffield, I say, anyone know a good Anglo-Catholic Orthodox church in Sheffield or evangelical, and they get back, and I'll pass that on to you. That's the easiest way. We know the churches. We know the churches. People do it, right? They do it. They go, I'm going on holiday. I'm going down to Cornwall. These are vicars. Anyone know a good church down in Cornwall that I can go to on holiday? And so people say. Yeah, Evangelical Alliance would be a good start as well. Michael John, they're leading the souls astray. Absolutely. And Tech Geek, where do you see church in 10 years without change? If we talk about the Church of England, the Church of England without change in, let's not take 10, I'll just say this and I'll come back to 10 years. By 2050, 2060, with the decline that it is in now, will be extinct. And there's studies being done on this for all the denominations, and the Church of England goes in the 2050s or late 2050s, early 2060s, it will collapse. So in 10 years time, so that's 35 years time. In 10 years time, let's say that's a third of that. We're just in drastic decline, and some dioceses around would who are already struggling with money would be really struggling. And so that what would be happening is like a lot of scurrying around, changing rules, tapping into that 10 billion that the Church of England sits on, trying to prop up little churches. And all these, did I say a statistic? And I can't remember it. But a huge percent, 85% of churches in the Church of England, I might not be getting that right, but a huge percent have under 20 or 10 people. I need to look into it, but a huge percent of churches in the Church of England have less than 10 people. And the average age is really big, is really old. So in 10 years' time, just on that, without people leaving, then it's going to be pretty bad anyway. So I think in the Church of England in 10 years' time, if nothing changed, it will be declining and trouble would be visible in local churches and in dioceses. That's what I would say. Yeah. Look at John. An immediate return to traditional moral values is the only way out of this current mess. And the only return to traditional moral values is going out to show people the gospel and preach the gospel and to show God's way. As Campo Mobile says, the gospels are the way. We know this for certain, and there is no other way. Trust and obey, for there's no other way. It doesn't take much to please me. Come on, Mobile. Dan. I hope this interaction doesn't depress you too much. Hopefully it'll spur the rest of us to do more. You are a lamp. No, you're right, Gun, but you know what? It doesn't depress me. It's the reality of the world. It's just the reality. But it's one of those. I'm one of those people who will take the punches, get a bit like, oh, and then come out fighting on the other side. And this is what's happening at the moment. I'm just formulating in my mind all of these things as we move forward and how to how we move forward. The ministry is getting bigger and a lot of people support it, and I do get as much as it is a burden as well as a pleasure. There's a galvanizing there, and I think we have to be galvanized. And what does that look like? And we'll see what that looks like. But we have to face this. We go through all the things. When it gets to abortion, it's a life that's lost. That's what gets me. And to think, like in Ireland, like they do in the States, that they're doing up until birth, is so horrendous. If you know what happens. And be brave to see what happens. It's just utter. It's just horrendous. And for people to do that, they must be sick. I just can't believe how people can dismember babies like that. And so it does get you, because I've got kids. But yeah, God's given me a ministry, and we will get there. TP, Dan's the lamp and we're the shade. No, I'm yeah, but you're not the shade. You're the lamps as well. We're just lamps joining together, and we're gonna light this place up. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring light into the world. We're just gonna galvanize, and we're gonna get out. Mr. B, praise my soul, the King of Heaven. Absolutely. Pammy, I moved churches because of this very reason. It makes me so sad to see churches not following the Bible. Yeah, and well done, Pammy, for doing that. And I know it costs changing churches. You do leave a church family, you do leave friends as well, but you're also walking into a church that will have family and friends, brothers in Christ. So that's the good. Michael John, TP, Cornwall's nice. I like Cornwall. Michael John, Dan, have you heard of the traditional Latin Mass Society in the UK? No, No, I haven't. Mr. B, TLM Society is interesting podcasts. No, I'm never heard of them. I'm evangelical, aren't I? So you go there you go with your Latin. We got Latin. Guys, you haven't mentioned the rosary yet. You haven't mentioned the rosary. We've gone so long, an hour and 23 without the rosary. But we got to an hour and 23 without the Latin. But it's here now. It's here now. Angus Dei, Tolis Peccata Mundi, Miserere Nobis. I've heard of that. I've seen that somewhere. What's it mean? TP, what? That's not... Is that Latin? Locamer? Latin? Oh, no. Anyway. Right, Ant. Let's go to some English. The churches seem to be growing and holding the CAB up on the more modern contemporary churches, and that those engaged in new worship and community styles. Yes. But, so in my church, there's a small local church in a village. Our church that grew, our service that grew is a traditional communion. We robe and we have choir, and families and younger people, in fact, across the board, are coming to that service because they like the traditional element. It's nothing like they got in the world. And I think what's happening in perhaps the smaller local churches who are Orthodox, they're seeing growth because people want structure, they want certainty. It's comforting to them, and it's quite interesting. So yes, the big churches who do contemporary stuff, they're growing, absolutely, but also these small local churches. And what's interesting as well, people like the small, they like the friendly. We got big churches round us, like big churches, well-known, famous churches, who do those great services, got all these programs and stuff. But people who like the small church and buy into the community of that, come to us because they know that we stand on the gospel, but also we're a small local church and we do these traditional services. And so I think in a way God's moving across the board, and I think it's good to have all those, not one over the other, and that's why it's good to have these different denominations out there that stand on the gospel. I got no problem with people going to church. I say to people now, they come in and say, sorry, we don't come to your church, but we go to this church. I'm like, praise God, you go to church. Praise God, you go to church, because more people don't go to church, so it's a good thing, and we're stronger together. So but it is happening. Mr. B, how can anyone abort a 9-month-old fetus? A 9-month-old baby, I would say. Michael John, I remember abortion debates in Ireland in the 80s. At the time, I never understood the arguments until the past few years. Long game. They play the long game. So, yeah, if I 9 months is not a fetus, right? Mr. B to Ant, but I can't digest happy clappy services, although horsifer courses. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a cross. Music Matt, hello to you too. Thank you for joining. Fran Gipani, that's the glory in it, Chelsea. Oh, that's why I recognise it. See, I am learning these things. I am getting on board with this stuff. Michael John, people are looking for tradition, especially young people. Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. Really, I'm fascinated by it. I know I've talked about it before, but I am fascinated by it. It's warming, heartwarming. There is hope. Mr. B, the Latin was for the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Have mercy on us. There you go. That's a Latin version for the Book of Common Prayer. Oh. I never knew that. Was that in the... I do the Book of Common Prayer communion service most Sundays at 8 o'clock. So I didn't know that. Music Matt, as an 18-year-old, I personally love the Anglo-Catholic perspective and enjoy going to my small traditional church. I have friends of a similar age who like the big church stuff, though. Yeah, it's. We had 2 kids coming to our church for a long time, for maybe 8-10 months, 2 of them, and then I think they've both gone to uni now. But one of them left us and went to the big evangelical church near us, and the other one stayed in our church. And they went independently, because one was like, I like this church, I like this worship, and the other one's like, I've been here and I prefer that. And it's like, yeah, go, because I'd rather you stay in church with what you like to worship, because we worship in different ways, than just sit in this service and suffer and just start hating it because you find it boring. Go to where you feel comfortable. So, well, word, a CV church in my aunt's village, the PCC has a non-theist Quaker and someone in a same-sex relationship. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. It's unbelievable. 18 thumbs up, 31 now watching. I never advertised this. I should have advertised that going on. Sometimes when I get organised, but we have messy church and family around. I do send it out on my social media, and it does go up. But it doesn't matter. It's not. The God has got the people He wants here. That's the most important. You could have 3,000 people on the stream, but if it's the 31 people that God wants to see these messages, that's what it's all about. So. But put the thumbs up, though. Put the thumbs up. Camper Mobile. Counterculture has always been cool. We are counterculture. The first time I prayed 2 years ago was in the shower. I felt so badass. Yes. It was who was it? Tom Holland. I saw Tom Holland was like doing an interview. It was on Justin Briley. It popped up on my shorts, and YouTube shorts, not my shorts. And he said, just be weird. That's what the world's screaming out for. We got these like miracles and angels and all these things. It's so weird, but the world loves that, the prophecy and all those things. And we don't speak about it enough. We hide this stuff. The spiritual side of Christianity is really not talked about in church, is it? We don't talk about like the battle of good and evil and all these things. It's crazy. And Mr. B, lay waste to that like button. That's it. Jay Bears, there's no rave in the name for Rev Dam. We were doing Our God is a Great Big God. We was having a rave in the name at Messy Church. Our God is a Great Big God. We was just boom, boom. It was banging out the speakers. We were there. Our God is a great big God. That's our rave in the name. Kids loved it. My daughter even challenged me. She was like, we was dancing all over the place when we was doing this bit. And she was like, come on. And I was like, wow. Challenged me to kind of dance off. Crazy. That's our Raven name. Well, I think Anglo-Catholics and conservative evangelicals have a lot more in common because of the same-sex blessings we do. And that's why the alliance works. And the alliance, watch out for the alliance. It's doing good work. Behind the scenes, we won't see, but we're stronger together. Well, why can't I say your name? Frangipani. Remember to hit that like button. Yep, more than once. It toggles, so a second hit removes the first like. Ooh, not to hit it more than once. Just hit it once. Music. My smaller church is also accessible to me as a person with CPTSD and autism. I don't do well with loud stuff. Yeah, and that's the thing with I don't know what CPTSD is, sorry, but smaller churches are good for people with that they can come in and sit on the side and still feel part of the church, which is good. Mr. B, whatever your style of hymns or service, you're on Jesus' side if you're in a Bible-believing church. Absolutely. How we worship is just a preference and it's not a choice. We just like it, don't we? We just like that's the way we worship. Michael John, proud freak and weirdo here. We're all weird. Come on, we're a minority. You know what? Someone was I got asked the other day by some teenagers. They said, "What do you think about furries?" You seen these kids who walk around wanting attention in animal suits and saying woof or bah, depending on if they're a dog or a sheep. You seen them? It's crazy. And I went, not much. When I grew up when I was a kid, it was punks. Punks. People with all the tattoos and the nose rings and all the earrings and their Mohicans and shaved heads and, wearing leather. And, I was like, you got to realise, kids, all that is just, you get society of people who will always be like that. They're always pushing the edge and the punk thing's been done. So after punks will come something else. And as it's forever evolving, we got to the stage of furries. People dressing up in stupid outfits and saying that I'm a wolf. And it's like, fine, we've always had people like that. We've always had the weirdos in society. And that's fine because, they express themselves. But I say, the trouble is where is it going? If we got it'll never go away. But I would like to see what it's like in 30 years' time if we got people thinking they're dressing up in animal costumes and stuff like that. Where I draw the line is where they go to school and the school has to affirm them and answer them in their preferred barking language, which has been known. But whatever age you grew up in, you can always look to see mods and rockers. Think back in the early 70s, I'm a big fan of David Bowie, where he wore a dress, or didn't he wear a dress on A Man Who Sold the World? David Bowie's wearing a dress. Wow, this is crazy. And now it's like everyone wears a dress. Like, come on, it's not, and so it always will evolve until we get further down the line. But they can't go back because they don't want to go back because that's become normal now. That's normal now. Punks are just normal, it's not edgy. So furries becomes the next thing. And then when furries, in a sense, becomes more normal and boring, what will be the next thing? And what will be the next thing for these kids to see? Jeez, what question will they answer? Right, I will catch up. It's 35 minutes past 9. COV Church in Old Hill has people on pieces here who don't know much about the Bible and someone who committed sexual sin. The vicar knows, but no real church discipline. Yep, us again. No church discipline. Dad dancing. I love dad dancing. Michael John, Dan, what do you think of gospel singers? I think they're amazing. We got a real, it's a Living Word International Church, and they're gathered African church. And they're singing when they got, if that's a gospel singing you'll speak about, amazing. They came down last year to a joint service here in the village, and they came down to do 2 or 3 songs, and I begged them to do an extra song because they were just so amazing. Mr. B, Christian standpoint provides a spiritual lens to discern the good and the bad and the indifferent. Absolutely. Music Matt, no, just as Red Dan was about to reply, an ad plays. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Music Matt, 2 ads, but it supports the channel. I'm really sorry that's happened right when I was just about to answer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. But you are supporting me. You are supporting this channel. I do want to turn them off, but I need to pay the bills. When I'll pray for us, by the way, we have to say this. It feels like we're under spiritual attack, perhaps. We've got lots of good stuff going on. But when this stuff starts happening, we start seeing. So we got one of those little taps. We bought it when we first came under the sink, the hot water tap. And then we got it for 220 quid when we first moved. Got rid of the kettle because the kettle was horrible. And I didn't think it was going to survive because it was so cheap. Anyway, it came. It broke. So that broke. And the next week, my wife's phone completely broke. So we had to get a new phone or change the contract to get a new phone. And then, Friday morning, the dishwasher broke. And so when stuff like that, it happens like that. So it could just be bad luck. But it could also be spiritual attack. So just pray that doesn't keep happening because we can't afford things to keep breaking. Okay, we will come into land as I get down and we start getting into comments about fairies. Go Google fairies. But the CAV Church in Old Hill is part of the Alliance. Oh dear. Yeah, but that's what it is. I don't know if you was on before Victoria. This is what I mean. There's a sliding scale. So even though we might all be in the Alliance, there'd be some that are fully like church discipline, upholding the Bible and stuff, and then others going, no, I'm really sympathetic to the Alliance and I don't believe in same-sex blessings, but I'm going to allow all this other stuff to happen as well. And that's why it's confusing. That's why it's confusing in church to where they stand. Music Matt, to answer your questions, C dash complex PTSD. I see. Basically PTSD, but you're kind of stuck with it because it comes from repeated, often childhood trauma. Sorry to hear about that, Music Matt. We will pray for you. This community will pray for you. Say a prayer for Music Matt tonight, because that doesn't sound good. Churches need to be less about denomination and more about community. Absolutely, yeah, you're right. Actually, doing life together and worshiping God, the CAV structure in theory puts a church within easy reach of people locality. Yeah, it does. That's what I love about the parish system. And it used to be about the local church, but it kind of all changed with the diocese and stuff like that. But it used to, the power in the CAV used to always be in local churches, but the power now lies in diocesan offices now, which is sad. JB, just say one thing for punks. At least they're human. Take the clothes off a fairy, pull their hat off, and they got a human head under there. Mr. B, Music Matt. Okay, Music Matt. Gosh, I had an emo phase. Yes, emos were a phase. Emo was one as well. Well done. It was like Travel 13, but never could say I had a fairy phase. So the fairy is the new emo. No, yeah, that's it, isn't it? Fairy's a new emo. So it's a crazy world out there. Right. Music Matt. I'm a woman, actually. Oh, okay. That was a revelation. That was a revelation that you was all waiting for. Now we know Music Matt is a woman. Fairy is the new email. I feel our society's collapsed entirely. Well, my friends, should we call it a night? It's 8:40. It's been good chat. It's been good chat. There's a lot gone on. I feel that I haven't looked in the camera again. I feel like people who watch this back, I might just go, what's this guy going on about? So next, if I don't pop on for a surprise YouTube one night, under promise, over deliver. The next one is on the 3rd of November, which is All Saints Day, All Souls Day as well. So I'll be doing an All Souls service at 5 o'clock for those whose funerals we have done in the past 3 years in our parish. It sounds a sad service, but it is a lovely service. You know what? I just remembered I didn't do my intro. I'm awful. I got all my buttons there and I didn't do it. But anyway, say goodnight to each other and have a good sleep and pray for each other. And I will see you on my next video, but we'll chat in a month. Bye.